Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new video. So we saw a ton of great Warhammer reveals at the recent Nova Open 2023 event, and while a lot of the focus was on new Space Marines and a Demon Primarch who annoyingly isn't for Warhammer 40k, there were also a ton of great Age of Sigmar reveals, and in this video I wanted to take a little bit more of a closer look at them and talk about the things that I really liked. So without further ado, we'll just jump straight in, and you can't get much better than the reveal of a brand new centerpiece model. We've got Trugg, the Troggoth King, and I do agree with Eddie and Nick on this one. This could easily be model of the year for a number of reasons. One, you've got the backstory behind Trugg, that he is a Troggoth who has been slumbering for centuries, and in that time civilizations have come and gone, and they've built this arcane construct on him that now kind of gives him a headache whenever he's around sort of magical energies and things like that. And it's a great sort of Troggoth storyline, and yeah, I'm really liking it. It's going to be interesting to see how that develops in the new Dawnbringers book. But fundamentally, as a playing piece, he is absolutely full of detail. You've got all these intricate vines and even the veins on his arm, which are absolutely incredible. I think you might be able to see in the photos here, but in the bottom left here, you've got even veins on the arms, which I think it's a really odd point to bring up, but it does show you the sort of intricate craft that's going into some of these models. But more than anything else, what I love about this model is, given that he is coming from Giran, the realm of life, he's got these kind of, I don't know what you would call them, etchings or tattoos or whatnot, that kind of point to a storyline that's much deeper than what we may even find out in the next Dawnbringers book. And I'm just really liking that, this kind of continuous narrative that's building up around these models. If you've ever seen any of my model focus videos, I tend to talk a lot about the implied narrative of scenic base and things like this. Here, I think the base has kind of moved onto his shoulders, which is really interesting, and I might do a video looking at him more closely. But just these kind of small, intricate narrative clues and suggestions really, I think, add a lot of flavour to this model. As the stream pointed out, this is going to be a joy to paint for so many people, and yeah, I think it's just it's another great centerpiece model, and it's something I love about Age of Sigmar overall. You've got these great, incredible models that sit at the heart of the armies, and they are just display pieces as much as they are playing ones. And yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on him, and yeah, to see where his story goes. But of course, he's coming as part of the next book, the Dawnbringers book, which is the Reign of the Brutes. You can see him on the front cover. He's no doubt going to play a massive role in that. And if you've seen my recent lore video on the first book in the series, Harbingers, you'll know that the first book kind of sets the scene for the Dawnbringer Crusades, the kind of getting ready, the context for them being kind of mustered together. Now we're going to see them in action, and we already know ahead of this campaign that one Dawnbringer Crusade is going to succeed and another is going to fail. And at the time when I did the lore video, or even before then, I thought the one in Giran was going to fail, mainly for a few reasons. You've got the new Cities of Sigmar character hero, whose name I'm forgetting. She comes from Akshi, so it felt a bit weird thinking that her crusade was going to fail and that she might end up either wounded or at least failing in her cause. Giran seems to be the one where all the destruction forces are looking really good and the Cities of Sigmar are really quiet. I don't know how better to explain it, other than it seems like one Dawnbringer Crusade is getting more love than the other, and vice versa on the sort of the enemy side. So will we see that play out in this book? I think so. The story behind the second Dawnbringers book is that the forces of destruction are going to meet these crusades head on. Again, more seems to be going on in Giran. You've got Trugg, who is based in Giran, and that's where a lot of his sort of mutation or his development has come from. The forces, or sorry, the energies of Alariel from Giran. And you've also got King Brod from the Sons of Behemat, who apparently went back to the Everspring Swathe, which is also in Giran. So you've got two massive heroes, destruction heroes in Giran, about to meet this Dawnbringer Crusade head on. And I think that they're going to make an example of it, to say the least. So maybe we'll see that play out in this book. Maybe it might go into book 3. But either way, I think Giran's going to be the one where the Dawnbringer Crusade fails. And that's where we'll start to see, I think, more of the intricate plot lines come out. And I'm really excited for that. In the book itself, we've obviously got the story. We'll also have, I think, renowned armies for Troggoth armies led by Trugg, and Grunter armies, apparently, for the Uruk war clans, which will be really fun to see. But even despite Grunter armies getting a bit of love, there were a ton of new Ironjawz reveals. I say a ton, a decent chunk. There's going to be a lot coming out, I think, for the Destruction faction overall over the coming months, really. But Ironjawz have been, I think, deserving some love for quite a while. And kicking it off is Zogrog Anvil Smasher. He's a new buff hero for the Ironjawz. You can kind of, well, the model itself can be posed in different ways. They talked on the stream about how he can be equipped with either his smithing equipment, which allows him to kind of buff Uruk weapons and things like that, but he also has a pair of weapons that can apparently break through ward saves, which in itself is a really powerful gaming ability. But while I think the abilities will happen regardless of how you kit him out, it kind of got me thinking about whether Games Workshop would ever go down that route of having heroes that you can kind of physically equip and kind of set with a particular loadout. I'm not entirely sure of it, because kind of the whole benefit of heroes is their versatility, but the way they spoke, it kind of just gave me a bit of food for thought. But I think this hero in particular is going to have those abilities regardless, and obviously he's got his own personal anvil squig, which has kind of taken a lot of the focus recently. And yeah, it's a fun Uruk character, and yeah, I can't wait to see how his story as well develops in the new Dawnbringers book. Following that up are it's a multi-part kit, the Brute Ragers and the Weird Brute Wreckers. We'll come back to the Wreckers in a moment. I really like these models. They, as they said on the stream, they are based on an existing Underworlds warband. You may have seen them. I can't remember which warband it was specifically, but this character in the middle does ring a bell. But they're kind of like the Berserker unit. The story behind them is that they're Uruks, or Ironjawz, sorry, that have been kind of shamed. They talked up their accomplishments and their deeds and their abilities, been kind of challenged on them, failed, and so they now throw themselves into combat more fiercely to try and prove their worth. One of the things that I think came out, and I think it was with the Brute Ragers specifically, Eddie Eccles was talking to this, they have this kind of Berserker ability where they can run, advance and charge in the same turn. So I think that's going to be a really interesting ability for them, because while Grunters get a lot of love in Ironjawz armies for obvious reasons, it seems like Games Workshop's aware of that, and they're giving these new units the ability to kind of keep pace with them. So they're going to fit in with not only new Ironjawz armies, but probably existing Ironjawz armies that have led quite a lot towards Grunters. So I'm really excited to see how I can fit them in. As a side note, sorry, just remember, we did actually get a few reveals a while back of the new Ardboys leader. We'll talk about the Ardboys in a second, but also the Maw Grunter. And this model I absolutely love. I think this is the hero variant, and I won't sort of lean on it now or linger too much, but I think there's a hero variant of this model, which is the one we're looking at, and then a non-hero version. So again, another Ironjawz hero, another character we can learn more about, and hopefully will be in the new Dawnbringers book. But we're already kind of building on previous reveals that are all going to be coming out in the next few weeks. So yeah, we've got these Berserker models that can all be equipped differently. I think these are the 3 variants of weapons, so a bit of versatility in them as well, which I think will really help when it comes to fitting them into existing Ironjawz armies. However, the other way they can be built is the Weird Brute Wreckers, and these are Uruks that have been driven mad by war-fueled visions, and I just absolutely love these. These are proper Berserkers in my view, like the Urukai style Berserkers. They go in, I think they've only got one kit option, but it was suggested on the stream that they can kind of have exploding attacks when they go in, which, given these sort of wrecking ball weapons, I'm not too surprised by. But more than anything else, looking at these models overall, I love the fact that we're building on the old Uruk aesthetic. To me, going back to Warhammer Fantasy, Orcs were that brutish, chunky, hard-hitting faction. They really kind of, they were just brutes, and this kind of builds on that for me. So I just really love the fact that we're kind of getting more love for the more traditional Uruks, rather than the sort of Cruel Boys that we saw come out at the start of 3rd edition AOS. I do love the Cruel Boys for obvious reasons. I think they're a great kind of alternative version of the Uruks, but I think there's a lot of love for this style of Uruk, and I just love the fact we're seeing more of it. And we are actually going to see a lot more of it because we've got, I said in a recent short, a new unit called Our Boys. They're not. We've always had Our Boys, and that's my mistake. But they've been the previous Black Orc models from Warhammer Fantasy. And this is a heck of a glow up. I mean, these are absolutely fantastic. Apologies, the image is going to look quite big. But one thing I absolutely love about these particular glow ups is where you have armies that have had that have models in them that have been around for a while. Sometimes it can always be a bit of a bittersweet pill when you get new models. I think Cities of Sigmar has this to some extent. You've got tons of great new models, but some elements of the armies are also quite dated models, and you kind of end up with this sort of binary look to your army where some models look absolutely fantastic and others clearly look like they were from Warhammer Fantasy. And so when Games Workshop kind of bring up the rank and file units and the units that are much older than than the rest of the army, instead of just bringing out loads of new units, I really like that, because this is going to, I think, add so much more to people's armies than just adding on a new version of an elite unit or something like that. So yeah, I hope they do it more and more. It's the same reason people are calling out for like updates to Eldari in 40k, or updates to Beastmen in AOS, because we're still using so much of the older models. Just a rank and file unit glow up can just change the aesthetic of an army, but then again, sometimes other units can then hold back that look and feel. So in any case, that's what I love about this unit. But as Eddie and Nick spoke to, these are proper brutish orcs. This is how Black Orcs should have looked back in the day. They're hard, they're mean, they're savage, and they looked absolutely fantastic. I don't know what more to say other than this is just the sort of model update I love to see. One of the interesting things about them, though, is they've got I think at least 2 weapon varieties. You've got the sword option, or the sort of hacker option here, which I think is sort of the more traditional go in and clobber things. But they talked about this spear weapon variant, which they suggested there's a rule that allows you to kind of deal with charges a bit better. So Eddie was suggesting that you might be using this particular variety to hold objectives, because after all, you do need to hold objectives to win the game. As a side note, I think if you just kill all the enemy, then you don't need to worry about objectives. That's what a true Uruk would say. But again, I like the idea that they've kind of fleshed out the play style a little bit more, and that they've given it this more tactical feel. The idea of Uruks receiving a charge wouldn't have necessarily been the first thing I'd jump to, but they seem to have thought about that and given that tactical versatility to them. And I think it'll be worth trying out and seeing what it's like when Uruks go on the defensive. And again, incredibly awesome models, and I'm going to have an absolute joy painting up a ton of these. And then finally, I just want to talk about the rules themselves. So the rules for all the models we've seen will be in the new Dawnbringers book 2. But what I really like is that Games Workshop are bringing out a supplement for Ironjawz that are going to also capture all of these new models, and it's going to be free, which again is an interesting move from Games Workshop, because I'm seeing this kind of experimentation in 40k and in Age of Sigmar. They seem to be trying different things with each game, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And AOS, we're getting free supplements now, which begs the question, I think, for 40k players, which is, will we see free supplements come out over time there? I'm not entirely sure, but it's a nice move that if you're an Ironjawz player, Games Workshop's kind of giving you an opportunity to get these rules without forking out for the new book if that's not to your liking. Personally, I wouldn't have been too upset if they did just put the rules in the book, but again, it's a nice approach, something I hope we see more of, something I think that also will make it easier for players to kind of get into AOS and stick around. But at the same time, we are getting ready for what will be 4th edition AOS coming out in summer, based on the 3-year time cycles that every edition of Warhammer seems to stick to. So undoubtedly, we will probably be seeing a new Uruk War Clans battle tome. Well, I don't know when, but either way, it would probably make a lot more sense to do it this way than produce a brand new battle tome, which will then be probably out of date, well, at least a year away. So yeah, either way, really nice approach. Can't wait to get my hands on it. And just a ton of great models to play around with that I think, again, are going to not only not only be the basis for great new Ironjawz armies, but also complement existing ones. And yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for? So that's just a quick look at the Ironjawz announcements. Again, love them, but I'm keen to hear what you think. Do you like the new models? I'm sure you do, but have you got any plans already for them? What about the Morgrunter over here? Are you keen to pick up any specific models? And where do you think we're going to be going for the rest of the Dawnbringers series? I mean, clearly we're knocking out quite a few destruction updates for the second book. It's getting me thinking about the third, fourth, and maybe even a fifth book down the line. And as a complete side note, I'm still quietly hopeful for Malarian to play a role in one of those books, but we'll have to see. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, a big thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, please do click the like button and subscribe if you're interested in following me for more Warhammer videos. And I do hope to see you in the next one. And also let me know what you think about this particular format. I'm still learning a few things. But until that next video, do take care.